The great hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from 47 different species sat in their designated sections, watching the drama unfold before them. At the center of the chamber, two figures faced each other across a gap that might as well have been an ocean. Admiral Kang Min-jun stood perfectly still. His human form looked small compared to the towering Vorthak commander across from him. The human wore a simple dark blue uniform with minimal decorations. His face showed no emotion as he listened to the alien's words. High Commander Zeth Kalar was everything humans were not. Standing nearly 3 meters tall, his scaled hide gleamed under the chamber's lights. 4 arms gestured wildly as he spoke, each ending in claws that could tear through steel. His voice boomed across the hall, with the confidence of a predator who had never known defeat. The Vorthak Empire has conquered the Delmar Federation, Zeth Kalar announced. We have crushed the Cathari resistance. We have broken the will of the proud Nexari warriors. Now, we turn our attention to the newest members of this council. The alien's eyes fixed on Kang Min-jun. Humans, you call yourselves a spacefaring race, yet you barely crawled from your single world 50 years ago. You have no empire. No grand fleets. No warrior tradition. You are nothing but children playing with toys you found in the wreckage of better species. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The Alkari ambassador, Yirathel, raised one feathered hand in a gesture of concern. Commander Zeth Kalar, she said, her melodic voice cutting through the tension. Perhaps we should consider diplomatic solutions. The humans have shown themselves to be reasonable beings who prefer peace to conflict. Zeth Kalar's laugh was like breaking glass. Peace? The Vorthak Empire does not negotiate with prey. We take what we want. We rule what we conquer. And we have decided that human space will make excellent breeding grounds for our expanding population. Kang Min-jun took one step forward. His voice, when he finally spoke, was quiet and calm. Commander Zeth Kalar, I want to make sure I understand your position correctly. Are you declaring war on humanity? War. The Vorthak commander spread all 4 arms wide. This is not war. This is harvest. We will take your worlds, your resources, and your people. Those humans who survive will serve the Empire as slaves. This is not a declaration of war. This is a statement of fact. The human admiral nodded slowly. I see. Just to be completely clear, you are stating that the Vorthak Empire intends to attack human territory with the goal of conquest and enslavement? Yes, little human. We will. I'm sorry, Kang Min-jun interrupted, his tone still perfectly polite. I need absolute clarity on this matter. You are formally declaring hostile intent against humanity and our sovereign territory? End quote. Zeth Kalar's eyes narrowed. Something in the human's tone made him pause, but his pride would not let him back down now. Not in front of the entire council. Yes, the Vorthak Empire hereby declares its intention to conquer and claim all human worlds and populations. Your species will kneel before us or be destroyed. Around the chamber, several representatives looked deeply troubled. The Alkari ambassador was making rapid notes on her datapad. An elderly Kethari delegate shook his head sadly. Even some of the neutral species seemed nervous. Kang Min-jun nodded a third time. Thank you for that confirmation, Commander. I wanted to be absolutely certain before I respond. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small communication device. The chamber fell silent as he activated it. Every representative strained to hear his words. This is Admiral Kang Min-jun to Earth Command. Authorization Code Tango 7. 7 Alpha. Condition Black is hereby authorized. Full military activation. Effective immediately. Total War Doctrine is approved. He paused, then added quietly. The Vorthak Empire has chosen extinction. The device clicked off, Kang Min-jun slipped it back into his jacket and looked up at the towering alien commander. Commander Zeth Kalar, thank you for making your intentions so clear. There will be no confusion about what happens next. No questions about who started this conflict. No diplomatic disputes about proportional response. The human's expression hadn't changed, but something in the air felt different, colder. In the interest of full disclosure, Kang Min-jun continued, I should inform you that humanity does not wage war the way other species do. We have studied your empire for 30 years. We know your fleet compositions, your supply lines, your industrial capacity, and your command structure. We know which of your subject species hate you and which might be convinced to join us. We know the locations of your breeding worlds and your food production centers. Zeth Kalar's confidence flickered for the first time. Impossible. Humans lack the... We also know, the Admiral continued calmly, that your species has never fought a total war. You have fought other civilized species who observe rules and honor codes. You have conquered beings who try to minimize civilian casualties and preserve infrastructure. The chamber was now completely silent. Even the translator devices seemed to hum more quietly. Humans do not observe those limitations when our survival is threatened. We do not fight to win battles, Commander. We fight to end threats. Permanently. Kang Min-jun turned to address the entire council. To our friends and allies in this chamber, please note that Earth bears no ill will toward any species except those who choose to make themselves our enemies. We ask only that you stay clear of Vorthak space for the next 6 months. He looked back at Zeth Kalar, who now seemed less certain than before. Commander, you wanted a war. You wanted to test human resolve. You wanted to see what we are truly capable of when pushed to our limits. The Admiral smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. It was not a pleasant expression. Congratulations. You are about to find out why every other species in this galaxy told you to leave us alone. You just declared war on the deadliest species in existence. Kang Min-jun turned and walked toward the exit. As the chamber doors closed behind him, Zeth Kalar stood alone, suddenly feeling very small, despite his massive size. The war had begun. Fleet Commander Yex Thul studied the tactical display with satisfaction. 200 Vorthak warships hung in space like a metal constellation, their dark hulls reflecting the light of New Busan's star. The human colony world turned slowly below them, green and blue and completely defenseless. This will be easier than conquering the Cathari, he told his tactical officer. At least they had orbital defense platforms. These humans have nothing but cargo ships and mining vessels. The tactical officer, a younger Vorthak named Kelthorn, gestured at his readings. Commander, I'm detecting some unusual movement on the planet's surface. Large groups of humans are gathering in the major cities. Probably preparing to surrender, Yex Thul said with amusement. Begin landing operations. Take the capital city first. We'll make an example of their leaders. On the surface of New Busan, Captain Sarah Kim watched the alien ships through her binoculars. Around her, the last evacuation transports lifted off carrying civilians to safety. Only military personnel remained now, along with volunteers who had chosen to stay. All families are clear? She asked her communication officer. Confirmed, Captain. Last transport just cleared the atmosphere. Colony population is now down to 8,000 military and volunteers. Sarah nodded. Good. Signal the fleet. Tell them we're ready for Phase 1. In space, Yex Thul received reports from his landing craft commanders. Commander, the humans are not resisting our landing zones. In fact, they seem to be pulling back from our approach vectors. Smart of them, the fleet commander replied. Patch me through to their military leader. Let's see how quickly they surrender. A few minutes later, Sarah Kim's image appeared on the main screen. She looked remarkably calm for someone whose world was being invaded. This is Captain Kim of the New Busan Defense Force. Can I help you? Yex Thul leaned forward. I am Fleet Commander Yexthul of the Vorthok Empire. Your world now belongs to us. Order your people to surrender immediately, and you will be treated as valuable slaves, rather than examples. I appreciate the offer, Sarah said politely, but I'm afraid we'll have to decline. We've prepared a welcome for your forces instead. A welcome? Yexthul's laugh echoed through his bridge. Human, you have no weapons that can threaten Vorthok warriors. Your people are soft, weak. You have never known real combat. You might be surprised, Sarah replied, but I guess we'll find out soon enough. The first wave of Vorthok landing craft touched down in the farming valleys outside the capital. Each craft carried 50 warriors in full battle armor. Their energy weapons could cut through steel, and their natural claws could rend flesh from bone. They had conquered 17 different worlds using these same tactics. The humans were nowhere to be seen. Spread out in standard formation, ordered Commander Rathek as his troops disembarked. Advance on the city center. Kill any armed humans you encounter. Capture the rest for processing. His warriors moved forward in perfect formation, their weapons ready. The human farms and buildings seemed abandoned. Too easy, Rathek thought. Much too easy. The first explosion came from underground, a massive blast that swallowed 20 warriors in fire and debris. Before the survivors could react, more explosions erupted along their advance route. Not random blasts, but carefully placed charges designed to channel the surviving Vorthok into specific areas. Ambush! Rathek shouted, but his communication was cut short by human weapons, fire from concealed positions. The humans weren't using energy weapons, like civilized species. They were using kinetic projectiles that hit like hammer blows and explosive rounds that sent shrapnel in all directions. In orbit, Yexthul watched his landing force markers disappear one by one from his tactical display. What's happening down there? Report! A surviving ground commander's voice crackled through static and weapons fire. Sir, the humans had the entire landing zone mapped and mined. They're using our own tactical doctrine against us. They know exactly how we move and where we'll position ourselves. More landing craft launched from the fleet. Yexthul sent them to different areas, trying to avoid the prepared kill zones. But somehow, the humans seemed to know where every landing would occur. Each new wave found death waiting for them. How are they predicting our movements? Kelthorn asked, studying the battle data. Unknown, Yexthul replied. Begin orbital bombardment of their cities. If we can't take the world intact, we'll break their will to resist. The bombardment began. Brilliant energy beams lancing down from space to shatter buildings and level districts. But the humans had evacuated the cities. The massive bombardment hit nothing but empty structures. Sir, a communication officer reported, we're receiving a transmission from the human captain. Sarah Kim appeared on screen again. She was now in what appeared to be an underground command center. Commander Yexthul, thank you for that demonstration. My people found it very educational. Educational, the fleet commander snarled. We just destroyed your major population centers. No. You destroyed empty buildings while we recorded your weapon signatures, power output levels, and firing patterns, Sarah explained. We also noted your ship positions, command protocols, and tactical responses under pressure. Very helpful data. Something cold settled in Yexthul's stomach. What are you talking about? You're not fighting a war, Commander. You're participating in a research project. We needed to see how Vorthok forces operate in real combat conditions. Your invasion has provided excellent data for our analysts. On the surface, human forces were engaging Vorthok ground troops in seemingly hopeless battles. But as Yexthul watched the tactical feeds, he began to notice something disturbing. The humans weren't trying to win these battles. They were testing things. They would engage with one type of weapon, record Vorthok responses, then switch to different tactics. They tested Vorthak armor against various ammunition types. They observed how Vorthak warriors reacted to different psychological pressures. They even captured wounded Vorthak for what appeared to be medical examination. "They're studying us," Kelthorn whispered in horror, "like laboratory specimens." The ground battle continued for 6 more hours. By the end, most of the Vorthak landing force was dead or captured. But the humans had paid a terrible price too. Nearly half their defenders were casualties. Yexthul prepared to withdraw and call for reinforcements. Surely, the cost had been too high for the humans to accept. But Sarah Kim's final transmission changed everything. "Commander, thank you for the combat data. We've learned everything we needed to know about Vorthak tactics, equipment, and biology. This information is already being transmitted to Earth Command for analysis." She paused, and her expression became deadly serious. "You should know that New Busan was never intended to stop your invasion. It was intended to teach us how to destroy your entire empire. And you've been excellent teachers." The fleet commander stared at the screen as the transmission ended. Around him, his bridge crew looked shaken and confused. "Sir," Kelthorn said quietly, "what kind of species fights a battle just to study their enemy?" Yexthul had no answer. But deep in his mind, a terrible suspicion was growing. The humans hadn't lost this battle. They had invested in it. 3 months after the invasion of New Busan, Intelligence Officer Kreshtal crept through the ventilation shafts of a human military facility. His mission was simple: learn how the humans were preparing for war. What he discovered would haunt him for the rest of his life. The facility was massive, stretching underground for kilometers. Kreshtal had never seen anything like it. Entire assembly lines worked around the clock, producing weapons and ships at an impossible rate. But it wasn't the quantity that shocked him. It was what they were producing. Every weapon was based on captured Vorthak technology. But the humans had improved everything they touched. Kreshtal watched through a grate as human engineers tested a modified Vorthak energy rifle. The original weapon could fire for 20 minutes before overheating. The human version fired for 2 hours and hit targets twice as far away. "The thermal dissipation upgrade is working perfectly," one engineer told another. "We should thank Commander Yexthul for leaving us so many examples to study." Kreshtal moved deeper into the facility. In the medical wing, human doctors were examining captured Vorthak warriors. Not torturing them, but studying them like scientists examining a new species of animal. "Vorthak muscle fiber is 30% denser than human," a doctor explained to her students. "But their nervous system response time is 15% slower. This creates opportunities for close combat engagement." Another doctor pointed to brain scans on a wall display. "Notice the aggression centers, here and here. Vorthak warriors are bred for individual combat, not tactical thinking. They respond predictably to certain stimuli. We can use this." Kreshtal's blood ran cold. The humans weren't just studying Vorthak weapons. They were studying Vorthak biology, psychology, and behavior patterns. They were turning war into a science. In the communication center, he found something even worse. Humans were broadcasting to Vorthak-controlled worlds, but not to the Vorthak themselves. They were sending messages to the enslaved species under Vorthak rule. "People of Cathari Prime," a human voice said in the Cathari language, "the Vorthak fleet that oppressed you for 20 years was destroyed yesterday by human forces. Your liberation has begun. When human ships arrive in your system, do not resist. We come as liberators, not conquerors." The broadcast was accompanied by footage of Vorthak ships exploding in space and Vorthak ground forces retreating in panic. Kreshtal realized with growing horror that the humans were doing more than winning battles. They were dismantling the entire Vorthak empire from within. On Earth, General Park Soo-jin studied the latest intelligence reports with satisfaction. The war was proceeding exactly as planned. Better than planned. Actually, the Vorthak have committed 60% of their fleet to human space, her intelligence chief reported. They're pulling ships from their occupation fleets across the Empire. Good, Park said. That means less resistance when we hit their supply lines. What's the status on Project Prometheus? The new weapon systems are ready for field testing. Enhanced energy weapons, improved armor, and... The chief smiled grimly. The special psychological warfare broadcasts. Park nodded. The psychological warfare was perhaps their most effective weapon. Humans had studied every species the Vorthak had conquered. They knew which ones hated their oppressors and which ones might be convinced to revolt. Sir, another officer interrupted. We're receiving a priority transmission from Admiral Kang. He's requesting permission to implement Protocol 7. Park's expression grew serious. Protocol 7 was total war. No prisoners, no mercy, no Vorthak survivors. Approved, she said quietly. Send word to all fleet commanders. The Vorthak chose extinction when they attacked us. Let's give them what they wanted. In Vorthak space, the reality of human warfare was becoming clear. Human ships moved in ways no one had ever seen before. They used ramming attacks, suicide missions, and tactics that seemed insane until they worked perfectly. High Commander Zeth Kalar stood in his command center, watching reports of defeat after defeat. Human forces had captured 3 major Vorthak worlds in the past week, but they hadn't conquered them. They had liberated them. The humans are giving our conquered worlds back to their original species, his aide reported. The Cathari, the Delmar, the Nexari. They're all joining the human alliance. Krasta. Impossible, Zeth Kalar snarled. Those species are weak, broken. They cannot fight. They can when the humans give them Vorthak weapons and tactical training. The aide replied nervously. Sir, we're not just fighting humans anymore. We're fighting everyone we've ever conquered. Led by humans who know exactly how to hurt us. The truth was becoming undeniable. The humans had turned the Vorthak Empire's own history against them. Every species the Vorthak had enslaved now had reason to hate them. Every world they had conquered now had a chance for revenge. Kreshtal finally reached his extraction point, his mind reeling from what he had seen. As he prepared to send his report, he discovered one final horror. The humans knew he was there. Officer Kreshtal, a human voice said from behind him. He spun around to find a human woman in military uniform, pointing a weapon at him. My name is Colonel Lee Su-young. We've been waiting for you. Kreshtal reached for his sidearm, but the human was faster. Much faster. I wouldn't, she said calmly. You're going to deliver a message for us. Tell your commanders that everything you've seen here is exactly what we wanted you to see. The Vorthak officer's eyes widened. You let me infiltrate your facility. We guided you through it. Colonel Lee corrected. Every room you entered, every conversation you overheard, every piece of technology you observed. We wanted your leaders to know what they're facing. She stepped closer, and Kreshtal could see the cold determination in her human eyes. Tell High Commander Zeth Kalar that this is just the beginning. Tell him that humans don't just wage war. We perfect it. We turn it into an art form. We make it so terrible that our enemies beg for the mercy of extinction. Kreshtal stumbled backward. You're monsters. No. Colonel Lee replied quietly. We're what happens when monsters make the mistake of threatening us. Now go. Deliver your message. Let your people know what's coming for them. As Kreshtal fled into the darkness, Colonel Lee spoke into her communication device. Command. The messenger is away. Phase 4 is complete. From her earpiece came a reply that would have terrified any Vorthak who heard it. Excellent work. Colonel. Begin Phase 5. It's time to show them what total war really means. The Vorthak Empire had 3 months to live. They just didn't know it yet. Emperor Thok Korvex stood on the observation deck of his palace, watching human ships fill the sky above his homeworld. 6 months ago, He had ruled the largest empire in the galaxy. Now he watched the end of everything his species had built. "How many ships?" he asked his military advisor. "Over 3,000, Majesty. More than our entire fleet had at its peak." The Emperor's four eyes focused on the massive human vessels. They were not the sleek, graceful ships of other species. These were brutal, functional weapons of war, built for one purpose: killing Vorthok. "Majesty." Another advisor approached nervously. "We're receiving a transmission from the human command ship." "Rude." "Way. We're receiving 20Y. We're receiving a transmission." Admiral Kang Minjun appeared on the chamber's main screen. He looked exactly the same as he had 6 months ago in the Galactic Council chambers. Calm, professional, and absolutely terrifying in his composure. "Emperor Tak Korvex," the human said politely, "I believe we have matters to discuss." The Emperor straightened to his full height. Even in defeat, he would show no weakness. "Admiral, you have come far from your little world." "Indeed. Though I should mention that this isn't just a human fleet anymore. We've been joined by ships from the Kithari, the Delmar, the Nexari, and 12 other species your empire enslaved. They were very eager to participate in your defeat." Thok Korvex's eyes narrowed. "Traitors and cowards. We conquered them fairly. You conquered civilized species who fought with honor and restraint," Kang corrected. "You never fought anything like humanity before. That was your mistake." On the surface of the Vorthak homeworld, the final battle had already ended before it began. Human forces and their allies had landed simultaneously on every continent. But these weren't invasion forces. They were extermination teams. The Vorthak military had expected a traditional siege: orbital bombardment, followed by ground assault and negotiated surrender. Instead, human forces had bypassed all military installations and struck directly at the heart of Vorthok society. Every government building was captured within hours. Every communication center was seized. Every transportation hub was controlled. The Vorthak found themselves isolated in their own cities, unable to coordinate resistance. "How did they move so fast?" General Corvin asked his staff, as human forces surrounded his command bunker. "Sir, they seem to know our defensive plans better than we do," his aide replied. "Every response we've tried, they were ready for. It's like they've been planning this specific battle for years." The truth was worse than that. Humans had been planning this battle for decades. In the palace, Emperor Thok Korvex continued his conversation with Admiral Kang. "What are your terms, human?" "Terms?" Kang looked puzzled. "I'm afraid there may be some confusion, Emperor. This isn't a negotiation." The words hit like physical blows. "Then, what is it?" "This is the end of the Vorthak Empire. Permanent and complete. Your species will be scattered across the galaxy as individuals. Your military will be destroyed. Your government will be dissolved. Your homeworld will be given to the species you displaced when you first conquered it." Thok Korvex felt something he had never experienced before. Pure fear. You cannot simply eliminate an entire empire. Can't we? Kang's expression didn't change. 6 months ago, you controlled 47 worlds and ruled over 300 billion beings. Today, you control nothing but the palace you're standing in. The Emperor's communication officer suddenly spoke up. "Majesty, we're receiving reports from across the Empire. Human fleets are at every major world simultaneously. Impossible. You cannot coordinate attacks across such distances." Admiral Kang smiled thinly. "Emperor, you made one critical error in judgment. You assumed humans were like other species you had conquered. You thought we were civilized." Around the galaxy, the final phase of the human war plan unfolded. It was not random destruction or mindless violence. It was the systematic dismantling of everything that made the Vorthak Empire possible. Every Vorthak military academy was captured and its instructors taken prisoner. Every weapons factory was seized and its technology copied. Every government official was arrested and their files confiscated. But the humans went further. They found every species the Vorthak had conquered and gave them advanced human weapons. Every slave world was liberated and offered membership in the new Galactic Alliance. Every Vorthak colony world was returned to its original inhabitants. "We studied your empire for 30 years, Admiral Kang explained to the Emperor. "We know every weakness, every dependency, every point of failure. We know which species hate you and which ones fear you. We know where your food comes from and where your children are educated." The Emperor's voice was barely a whisper. "What do you want from us?" "Extinction," Kang replied simply. "Not death, necessarily, but the complete end of Vorthak civilization. As a galactic power, you will never again have the ability to threaten other species." On the palace landing platform, human soldiers were taking Vorthak officials into custody. These weren't brutal conquering forces. They were efficient, professional, and utterly ruthless in their thoroughness. Captain Sarah Kim, now promoted to colonel after her actions at New Busan, supervised the capture of the Vorthak High Command. Each prisoner was processed with medical precision. No torture, no cruelty, just the systematic destruction of a government. "Colonel," one of her sergeants reported, "we've secured the Imperial Archives. All government records, military plans, and diplomatic files are now in human hands." "Good," Sarah replied. "Send copies to every species they ever threatened. Let the galaxy see exactly how the Vorthak Empire operated." Anna said. NB. In space, Ambassador Yirathel watched the human fleet from her observation ship. As the representative of the Galactic Council, she was here to witness the end of the war. What she saw would change galactic politics forever. The human ships weren't celebrating their victory. There was no display of triumph or conquest. They simply completed their tasks with mechanical efficiency and prepared to leave. "Ambassador," her aide whispered, "the humans are broadcasting something." Kang Minjun's image appeared on screens across the Vorthak homeworld and throughout the galaxy. When he spoke, his words were translated into every known language. "People of the galaxy, the Vorthak Empire is finished. Their military is destroyed. Their government is dissolved. And their worlds are liberated. The species they enslaved are now free to determine their own futures." He paused, and his expression became deadly serious. "Let this be a lesson to any species that considers following their path. Humanity asks only to be left alone. We prefer peace to war, cooperation to conquest. But if you threaten us, or those under our protection, you will face the same fate as the Vorthak." The transmission ended. Within hours, human ships began leaving Vorthak space. They left behind a galaxy that would never again underestimate the deadliest species in existence. Emperor Thok Korvex sat alone in his empty palace, surrounded by the ruins of an empire that had seemed invincible just months before. Through his window, he watched the last human ships disappear into the stars. They had not just defeated the Vorthak, they had erased them from history. 1 year after the fall of the Vorthak Empire, the Galactic Council met in emergency session. The Grand Chamber that had once witnessed the beginning of the war now hosted discussions about its aftermath. Representatives from dozens of species filled the seats, but all eyes were on the human delegation. Admiral Kang Minjun sat quietly in the same chair he had occupied a year ago. Beside him, Colonel Sarah Kim and General Park Soo-jin represented the new human presence in galactic affairs. They had not asked for these seats. The other species had insisted they take them. Ambassador Yirathel called the session to order. Her melodic voice carried a weight it had never held before. "The Council recognizes the representative from the Cathari Federation." End quote. The Cathari delegate rose shakily. His people had been free for only 8 months, liberated from Vorthak rule by human forces. Honored representatives, the Cathari people wish to formally thank humanity for our liberation. We pledge eternal friendship to Earth and her allies. Similar statements followed from the Delmar, the Nexari, and 9 other species. Each had been freed by human intervention. Each now looked to humanity as their protector. When the formal thanks ended, the real discussion began. "Admiral Kang," said the representative from the Zephyrian Commonwealth, "the Council must address the current situation. Humanity now possesses the most powerful military force in galactic history. Many species are concerned about your intentions." Kang Minjun stood slowly. When he spoke, his voice carried the same calm authority it always had. "Our intentions are simple. We want to be left alone to develop in peace. We want our allies to be safe from aggression. And we want to ensure that no species ever again has the power to threaten others the way the Vorthak did. But you could conquer the entire galaxy if you chose." The Zephyrian continued nervously. "Your technology is now beyond anything we possess. Your tactics are proven superior. Your industrial capacity is unmatched. We can seeking to defecate out of the 10. We can seeking to defecate out of the 10. Yes, Kang agreed simply. We could. The chamber fell silent. The admission hung in the air like a physical presence. General Park Soo-jin rose to join the admiral. "Representatives, let me explain something about humans. We are not conquerors by nature. We are defenders. Everything you have seen from us has been in response to aggression against our people or our friends." She activated a holographic display showing the current state of former Vorthak space. Former Vorthak worlds have been returned to their original inhabitants or given independence. Former slave species have been armed and trained to defend themselves. The Vorthak themselves have been relocated to a single world under human supervision, where they are learning to live as a peaceful species. "But what happens when you decide we are a threat?" asked the representative from the crystalline hegemony. "What happens when humanity wants something we have?" Colonel Sarah Kim answered this question. "Then you tell us no, and we respect your answer. Humans do not take what is not freely given. We do not force other species to join our society or adopt our ways." "Then why maintain such a powerful military?" the Zephyrian pressed. Admiral Kang retook his seat before answering. "Because the galaxy is full of species like the Vorthak. Because some beings only understand strength. Because when peaceful species are threatened, someone needs to stand between them and those who would destroy them." An elderly delegate from the wise caste of Altair Prime spoke for the first time. "Admiral, your people speak of peace, but you have demonstrated capacity for total war. How do we reconcile these contradictions?" "There is no contradiction," Kang replied. "We seek peace because we understand the cost of war better than anyone. We can wage total war because sometimes it is the only way to ensure lasting peace." The discussion continued for hours. Some species expressed gratitude for human protection. Others voiced concern about human power. A few suggested restrictions or oversight of human military activities. To every suggestion of limitation, Admiral Kang gave the same response. "No. You must understand our position," he explained during one heated exchange. For 30 years before the Vorthak War, humanity observed galactic politics. We watched strong species prey on weak ones. We saw the Council debate and issue statements, while entire civilizations were enslaved or destroyed. He stood and addressed the entire chamber. The Council failed to stop the Vorthak because the Council was designed by and for civilized species who fight civilized wars. But sometimes, civilization is not enough. Sometimes you need beings who are willing to do terrible things to protect what matters. "So humanity will be the galaxy's police force?" asked the Zephyrian. "No," Kang said firmly. "Humanity will be the galaxy's apex predator. We will ensure that no species can grow powerful enough to threaten the peace we have created. We will hunt down and destroy any group that chooses the path of conquest and domination. A new voice spoke from the gallery. Former Emperor Thok Korvex, now simply Thok Korvex, had been permitted to attend as a witness to his people's fate. Honored Council. May I speak? Yerathel nodded hesitantly. You may address the council. The former emperor rose slowly. His bearing was completely different from the proud conqueror who had declared war on humanity. Representatives, I have lived among humans for 1 year. I have seen their cities, their schools, their families. I have learned their history. He paused, struggling with words that were difficult to speak. My people made a terrible mistake. We thought humans were weak because they preferred peace. We thought they were naive because they offered cooperation instead of demanding submission. We were wrong about everything. His voice grew stronger as he continued. Humans are not weak. They are restrained. They are not naive. They are wise enough to know that true strength comes from choosing not to use power unless absolutely necessary. The chamber listened in stunned silence as the former emperor continued. Every species in this chamber should thank whatever gods you worship that humanity chooses to be protectors instead of conquerors. Because if they ever change their minds, nothing in this galaxy could stop them. Admiral Kang nodded respectfully to his former enemy. Thank you, Thok Korvex. Your words carry weight because you have seen what we are truly capable of. As the session neared its end, Ambassador Yerathel posed the final question. Admiral, what does humanity want from this council? What are your terms for continued peace? 1. Kang Minjun smiled, and for the first time in months, it was a genuinely warm expression. We want exactly what we have always wanted, Ambassador. To be left alone, to build our society in peace, to trade freely with those who wish to trade with us, to offer protection to those who need it, and friendship to those who want it. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of every representative, and we want every species in this galaxy to know that if they choose the path of aggression and conquest, they will face the same fate as the Vorthok Empire. This is not a threat. It is simply the new reality of galactic civilization. As the session ended and representatives filed out, many whispered among themselves. Some discussed new trade agreements with humanity. Others planned diplomatic missions to Earth. A few spoke nervously about the future of galactic politics. In the empty chamber, Admiral Kang stood alone for a moment. Through the great windows, he could see ships from dozens of species departing for their home worlds. Each would carry the same message. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy. They had made themselves its guardians. On Earth, children played in parks while their parents worked in peace. Human colonies spread across the stars, protected by the knowledge that no enemy would ever again dare to threaten them. The deadliest species in the galaxy had chosen to be protectors instead of predators. But the choice was always theirs to make. And every species in the galaxy would remember that for generations to come.